I'm Greg Torres. I'm Q Grader here at Grand Avenue Coffee. Today we're going to talk about what are the components of a great cup of coffee, because everybody looks and they want to know, how do I make a great cup? So I'm going to tell you a little bit about coffee today. First of all, having a good cup of coffee starts with great water. You got to have purified water. Zero water isn't always the best because you need some minerals in there to have some flavor. We use a system in the industry called TDS, or totally dissolved solids. What that is if you ever make like hot chocolate and you have a little bit of that powder left at the bottom and it doesn't quite all absorb, well, that's because the water can only absorb so much of the coffee or so much of the chocolate in that case. And then all the rest of it just tends to settle at the bottom. So inside the water, standard here in my area in Los Angeles, we're probably looking at about 400 TDS. You want to bring that down to about 150 or less to be able to allow the rest of that to be absorbed by coffee. You see, at 400 TDS, you're talking about chlorine and all these different impurities that you really don't want in your coffee. You want your coffee to taste like coffee, and with all those impurities in there, the water can only absorb so much. So, start out with great water. Next thing, you're looking at different kinds of beans. There's two types of species of coffee, the Robusta and the Arabica. Now, the Robusta bean is more pest resistant, it's higher in caffeine than Arabica beans, and tastes a little bit more bitter because you taste more of the caffeine. Caffeine is bitter, and so with higher caffeine levels, Robusta beans tend to be a little bit more bitter, where Arabica beans have about 40 to 50% less caffeine than the Robusta beans, and so you're getting a lot more flavor with the Arabica. So in choosing a coffee, try to get Arabica beans. They taste the best. And then you want to look at the different type of roast that they are, because that will drastically affect the flavor of your coffee. First of all, let's take a look at the light roast. These light roasted beans have a lighter color. Light roasted beans usually have a lighter body. They usually have a brighter note in them. Brightness really comes out. If that's the way you like your coffee, that'll be great. The next one would be medium roasted coffee. Medium roasted coffees, that's where the coffee is going to taste all the best that it is of coffee. It's sort of like when you're cooking a steak at home. You don't want to taste the char from the grilling. You want to taste all the flavor that the meat can be. Well, same in coffee, because coffee's a food. When you cook coffee at medium level, that's where coffee's going to taste all that's good in the coffee, and you're going to be able to experience all that the coffee is. So a lot of people like dark roasted coffees, just like people like their food well done. Dark roasted coffees have a little bit of color. It's after the second crack. Coffee pops like popcorn. So, at the first crack you hear, that's a light roast. Second crack you hear, that's usually a medium roast. After the second crack, that's when it starts picking up the roasty flavor. That's the roast of the bean, very similar to like char marks or well done on steak or fish. You start picking up char, you start picking up a darker the roast itself. And so after the second crack, you can go to like a Vienna roast, which is a little bit darker, French roast, and this is when things start really getting dark. And that's a dark roast. Sometimes they can take it a little too far on the dark roast, and you'll pick up an ashy or tobacco-y flavor on the coffee. That's when they go a little bit too far on that. The next thing is you want the right grind of coffee. If you take a look at this, you want it to be fine with a few chunks in there. That's the kind of look that you want in your coffee cut to be able to extract properly. Remember, if you cut it too fine, it's going to come out over extracted early. If you cut it too coarse, it's going to be light and diluted. So you want to get that cut right. Next, you want to make sure that you use the right ratio of coffee. The Specialty Coffee Association has a great cup going at about 17 to 1. 1 part coffee to 17 parts water. So with that in mind, make your measurements out. Usually a good cup, it comes at that ratio is very good on a good cup. But it's basically going to come out to how you like your coffee. But let all that the specialty coffee come out on what you want it to be. I'm Greg Torres. Hope you learned something today.